you have ever wanted to do something that really helps a lot of people, especially those that live in your neighborhood or let's say just live in your like overall community, this is an episode you don't want to miss because I have the founder of Seacoast Lately and she also owns Maine Lately, Maggie Sutherland. So Maggie's here because I've really been following her story and her entrepreneurship journey for a long time. I think Maggie, you and I met right as I was starting this business because you
Yeah.
were already in business. And I remember where we met. We met at White Heron in Portsmouth.
Oh my gosh, I love that place.
That's why I was like, I feel like somebody had recommended it. They were like, go there, you're going to meet a ton of people. And I just feel like I had heard so much, like when I first moved to town or was thinking about moving to town, people would constantly direct me to your website.
Mhm.
And I remember reaching out to you and being like, oh my gosh, all right, let's meet. Let's talk about this. And you were, I feel like you were just a few years in. When did you start Seacoast Lately?
I started it 9 years ago, so that must have been 2017. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that's a
And then
pretty
I
good.
started my business 2019.
Okay,
Yeah, so you
wow.
were a couple of years in.
Yeah.
Um, so you guys, today on the podcast, Maggie told me that she's an open book. So we're just gonna like get her story and like kind of get the good, bad, and ugly. Like I think so many times people think either A, that entrepreneurship is awesome and it's a goal and a dream that they want to achieve, and it is, and it's really tough. It's actually probably one of the hardest things I've done aside from like learning how to love myself. I feel like this was like second in command. This was like, oh wow, starting a business. This is super tough. So like what do you feel like, Maggie, that you know now, set would you say 9 years in,
Yeah.
that you wish you knew when you first started?
That's a great question. I think I've learned so much and I'm still learning all the time. Literally just this week, I'm like learning basic business things that I just was completely unaware of that I think would have been really awesome to know in the get-go. So like starting out, like I just went with the concrete, visual things like, oh, get a logo, get a website, have social media set up. And that I was like, okay, that's good, right? And then it's like, I wish from the get-go, I'm like, okay, now I have to like register it with the state and um how to hire employees and like what that looks like. And I just was chatting with someone last week about payroll and they're like, you're not on payroll with your team members. I'm like, no, I didn't even know that was like a thing. And there it's like, you know apparently something you have to do, which I did not realize until last week. So getting on that. But just those basic things are how to fill out like the W-9 and who to send it to and when, and how to get a bookkeeper, and like how do you find a bookkeeper and an accountant, and all these things that are just not naturally quick and easy for me, but the visual things are. So I think like, starting out, it would have been really great to just know everything like that from the get-go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like I was probably 6 months in, and then I was a part of a business mastermind where like I was learning how to grow my business like at a very early stage. And I remember that I got synced up with an accountability partner who was a lawyer, and she was a
Oh,
business lawyer. And so she started telling me about like in the group about like legal documents. So you've been on the podcast. It's Natalie Puglisi. I talk about her all the time. But so Natalie and I were in a group. We were accountability partners. She's telling me like all these things I need to know about, hey, if you're on a podcast, you need to sign an agreement. So like my team either has already sent it to you or will be sending it to you, right? Like if you are going to get a photo release, you need an actual legal document. If you are going to do one-on-one coaching with someone, you need a legal document. If you're going to run an event, you need a legal document. I was like, what don't you need a legal document for? And then even like trademarking, I remember her saying to me like, do you want to trademark anything for love? And at that time it wasn't even called anything for love. I hadn't even done the podcast. I hadn't named my LLC this. And I just was like, I want to make sure that this thing has legs. Like and I think a lot of people feel that way at the beginning. Like I just want to make sure that this business is going to be successful before I actually do all the business like things. But then you're right. Then we start doing the business like things and we start learning more and we're like, oh my God. So after the call, after this podcast, I mean, um, if you want, I'll answer some of the questions that you already said because there's like I've learned a lot in the last 5 years, especially switching over to business coaching because I realized how instrumental like all of these steps are. So I think that's really helpful, and I think I think it sounds like our path was similar, right? Like, let's see if this thing gets legs. Okay, then let's like actually make it a real business.
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
How
and
have
it's
you
so good to have, like, people like you to help, you've learned so much starting your business and can offer so much knowledge and wisdom to people in all phases of their business journey, so it's, like, great to have you and so many awesome, talented people in the community that can be like, "Oh, hey, like, I can do this, like, if you want help," and, like, "Did you know about this?" Like,
it's
I don't know anything, but people have helped me along the way to get here, so that's really just a cool way to look back and see.
That's a really good way to put it. And I do feel like people have been so generous with me and helping me understand what I need and what I want and why do I need those things. And, one thing that I try to do now is like tell people when they do need to, buy something and when they don't. Because I think so many people, you probably felt this way at the beginning, like, oh, do I form an LLC right at the beginning? And it's like, well, no, you don't have to. You can just do a sole proprietor or like, DBA where you're just registered with the state and it's pretty casual. And then as you kind of get more employees under your belt and you start making more money, then it's like, okay, now we got to make this a real deal so that you can like
Yeah.
protect your assets and stuff like that. How many employees do you have now versus how many did you have? Like, has the number changed as you've grown?
Yeah, it's fluctuated. It's always been me full time. And then I worked with an awesome girl, Bree, for a while, and I've had a couple interns from UNH who have been great. Right now, like who are actually on the official payroll now that I've started that. It's me and an awesome intern that I had from UNH last year, but she continued on, Delaney. She's great. And then an awesome intern named Ella, and she is also incredible. So very grateful to have those two talented gals on board and help me out. They're truly so amazing.
So smart to do internships because I feel like I hadn't thought of that. Where when you need the extra help, because I remember there was a time where you were growing, and one of the conversations we had was, do you get an assistant? Do you not? And internship is so smart because you don't have to pay them; they get credit for it. What are some of the things that you've started to delegate and get off your plate? Because that's a big thing, Maggie. Like we're the CFO, the CMO, sales, marketing, like everything. How did you start to delegate and like kind of get some of that off your plate? And what are they doing now versus like what's the stuff that you're still holding on to and doing?
Yeah. I think at first it was really hard for me to delegate because I wanted to be in control of everything, even though I wasn't exceptional at everything, but I just like felt so close to to the business that I wanted to be in control. But after a few years, I did feel comfortable giving up tasks. A lot of it is like the time consuming tasks. Like, so for example, Ella is at college and she puts together our event calendar every month. She does Instagram stories. She helps us like keep our advertisers like in line and organized and everything like that. So it's like once, and Delaney does a lot of similar work, helps put a lot of the guides together, does reach outs for new businesses. So yeah, they've been great. And I think it just took some time to trust those two individuals, which I completely do. And I feel so grateful for that because that's not the case with, everyone who we've crossed paths with, of
Hmm.
course, but it definitely feels like a gift that they entered my life, and I can trust them, and I not only trust them as individuals, but trust their work too. Like they're very hard workers. They complete the job well in advance and like always so thoroughly and on time. And I'm like, I couldn't truly dream of better people to work with. So um I quickly like, gained their trust. So I felt like comfortable delegating. And then once like I started delegating more, then I was like, oh, that actually feels really good that I'm not like staying up till midnight to finish the events calendar because I trust Ella to do an exceptional job at that. So it's like, okay, like I trust her with this. Like, let me give her more responsibilities if she's willing to take that on. And Delaney the same thing. So I think just like over time, it just felt easier and more fluid to just give things up that I don't necessarily have to do. And I think I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a couple of really good points. I think the first is wanting to hold on to control, right?
Mhm.
I've definitely been there. I have heard a lot of other business owners that I've coached be like, I feel like if I don't do it, then it's not going to get done the right way and that's subconscious. I don't think we're actually saying that. I think it's just more like we want to make sure that all the boxes are checked because we have so many tasks going on on the to-do list in our head, right? And then
Mm,
once we do give that freedom to be like, okay, I am gonna actually train someone and trust them. I think I've heard two different schools of thought. One group of people, I should say, has been like, well, I want to trust them and I want them to do a great job for me because maybe they'll be able to grow with the company. And then the other school of thought has been scarcity. Well, what if
mm,
I train them? Like, what if they try to take over what I do and duplicate what I do? And I'm like, that's why we have legal documents because we
yeah.
literally have them sign it so that they can't. I'm like, but also, I think that I would love for someone to come work with me. Like, I just had a client the other day. She was like, I said something like, yeah, out of the 11 clients I have right now, 9 of them are wedding business owners. And she was like, oh, that's crazy. And she's in the wedding business and she's an old client. And so she's coming back. And so she said to me, yeah, I'm kind of thinking I'd love to coach with you because I want you to teach me how to create a coaching and mentor business. I was like, I love this for you. Like, let's do it. That's more, that doesn't take away from me. That adds to her and like adds to everybody else. And so I definitely have had that kind of when people have pushed back and been like, oh man, it's going to take either A, so much time to train them, or B, what if they go off and take my own idea? I'm like, girl, scarcity. You need to not be
Yeah.
feeling that way. Let's dial that back and figure out where that's coming from. So I love that it's provided like a lot of comfort and probably a lot of freedom and flexibility and probably just peace of mind as well. And I think when you get, especially women that young out of college, they are one, it sounds like they feel very purposeful in being a part of Seacoast Lately and as a part of Maine Lately. And then they feel very passionate. And then what's cool about that is they also treat it as if it's their own business, meaning nothing's going out on that website that has an error or a link that's broken because they really value the work that you guys are doing and how it impacts literally the community. I know community is overused, but like you guys massively impact the Seacoast. Like I'm always last night I was like looking on the event calendar being like, what fun stuff is coming up this week or what's coming up in the rest of the month? And like even I found myself trying to plan out to December. Like, oh, is there
Oh,
a December calendar out yet? Because we're trying to plan stuff for the holidays and like, it was cool to be like, this is a real like staple in our community. And a lot of people, when I remind them of Seacoast Lately, they'll go, "Oh, that's right." Like I always forget. It's not my like first line of defense. And I was like, "Yes, but it is when you're like, shit. I wanted to go to that event and I didn't even know that it was going on." It's like you would have been
yeah.
tricked. Seacoast Lately.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's happened so many times. There's just so much going on here, which is an awesome thing.
It is, especially as someone who moved, from Boston up here and was trying to create a sense of community herself. And I think you guys have been a staple ever since the beginning, which I really appreciate. You started talking about paying your interns. How did you make that shift to pay them? Because I think that's another big thing. We hear a lot of business owners say, like, confused about how to pay yourself. And then once you start taking people on, well, shoot, like, how much can I afford to pay them? Can you kind of talk us through and share as much as you want about how that process has evolved and then like where it's at now in terms of paying yourself, paying the people that um, work with you, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. So the interns, so there's this great program at UNH how I got connected to my one team member, Delaney, and she was just so good that I was like, would you want to continue working with us? And she was like, yeah. So she still is like over a year later, which is really cool. But that was like a program where you paid like, several $100s for the semester and they would get school credit. But then after that, I was paying her an hourly fee. And the same thing with Ella from the get-go. I've done several unpaid internships myself when I was in college, and I did not like that concept. And I was like, I remember telling myself back then, I was like, if I ever start a business and have interns, I'm always going to pay them because I just feel like it's wrong not to, because it is a lot of work. It is their time. They are learning, and you do teach them, but it's like you're doing regular work too. It's not like it's like you're volunteering or something. So
Yeah, I
that was
agree with
always really important to me. So yeah, I've always paid them. And I think I need to have better names for their positions because they're much more than interns, even though interns are terrific. But there's nothing wrong with that term. It's great. But they've just been working with me for over a year. So I'm like, okay, I think we need to update the
Title change.
title. Yeah, yeah, they're both very well deserving of that as well. So yeah. And paying
That's
myself,
awesome.
I don't really know how I pay myself.
We'll add that to the coaching call.
Okay, okay.
Because I feel like too, it's I mean, so let's talk about how the business makes money.
Okay,
So walk us through that. I think maybe that's a great question, and then we'll have you back on, and you can talk about how you pay yourself later. But
perfect.
like, how does the company make money? Seacoast Lately and Maine Lately.
So as of now, Maine lately has not made a dollar, but that's okay because we're not ready at that point. But for Seacoast lately, it's always been the business that we feature pay for their features.
Hmm.
So it's not like I never going into this, I never wanted to have like logos or, ads and things like that. And it's maybe untraditional in terms of like, traditional magazine prints or newspaper that would have those kind of ads to support, the people working behind the scenes. But yeah, our model is that so say for example, like Lainey and Lou or something, like they'll pay for exposure on our channels, whether it's the newsletter, Instagram, Facebook, our website. So each individual is like choosing to work with us and spending their hard-earned marketing dollars with us, which is a huge honor that they would choose us because I know it's you know they can't choose everybody. So I'm definitely grateful for that. And but there are different ways for people to pay. Like some people will just be and say like our fitness guide for the year, and that's awesome. And then some people will sign up for a yearly membership with us, so it includes a lot of the social posts, and it's not like
Oh,
you want to pay for this and this and this. It's like, okay, you're automatically included in our Portsmouth town guide, our health and wellness guide, our art gallery guide, all of that, so we don't have to like keep tapping them.
oh, that's perfect. It's almost like different tiers. It's like you got your yearly membership, your next tier, and then maybe like just a guide feature or something like that. Sounds like.
Yeah, totally. So we try to make it have good options for all different budgets and exposure preferences and all that jazz. So
Well, I think something that you do a beautiful job at, you and the team, is the features really are features. They feel like not salesy. They're not um, like you wouldn't even know that the company paid to have the feature. Does that make
oh,
sense? Like
thank
when I
you.
was scrolling through them last night, like I saw Aaron Holt on there, I saw Lainey and Lou, I saw I think it's the Red, is it called Red Barn? It's over in
Oh
South
yeah.
Berwick. Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
By the way, never even knew it existed. It's gorgeous. And I was scrolling through
Yeah.
and I'm like, this just feels like someone's Instagram account that I landed on who really loves these businesses and keeps talking about them. That's what it feels like when you're on there. And I think that that's such a unique way of selling because I think one of the most common concerns that I hear is I know that I have to sell in order to make money, right? But I want to sell in a way that doesn't feel awkward and I don't want to come across salesy. How did
Mm.
you kind of find your voice like when it came to this strategy of, because it's a strategy, like how did you come up with this strategy as like features versus the paid ads? I know you just said briefly like, ugh, the ads just felt yucky, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And what would you recommend to an a business owner who's trying to sell similarly as you are?
That's a great question. You have really good questions, Katie.
Thank you.
Um, and it makes me think too. So yeah, I think I was just really turned off by the traditional ads and like having a logo there because I'm like, you can't really know a business from their logo by just like a design. I'm like, I want more
Mm.
than just showing that. So I think that's why like the visual aesthetic is so important to me and getting like, okay, here's the atmosphere, here's the beautiful food, here's the beautiful clothing or products or scenery and all that really matters to me. And as like a recipient of other forms of advertising, that's what stands out in my mind. I'm like, oh, I'm drawn to that picture. Like I want to see the food photo versus like the logo of the business because I'm like, that's what's going to make me want to go personally. um, so I think that was super important. And I guess like doing some internships in PR and marketing before I started Seacoast Lately, which was right out of college. Um, I I think I didn't quite understand like why the businesses wouldn't pay if they're being featured. So I think it was just like a hiccup in my mind that I didn't, fully understand like the correlation between like one business supports it via their ad dollars
Hmm.
and then this other business is being featured. I'm like, if I don't know, I think like if I wanted to promote Seacoast Lately, I'm like, I think I should pay for it, So I
Yeah,
guess it's naturally how I thought of it. But yeah. Does that answer the question?
that is, and it's smart. It's a
Okay.
great observation of seeing something that's being done in the market already, but looking at it from a different lens and saying, wait, this doesn't make sense. Like, I remember when I started business coaching, I was talking about mental health. I was talking about anxiety, the pressure we put on ourselves, how we can often just like go, go, go and overwork to a place of like overwhelm. And
Mm.
so when people have asked me, like, what do you do for work? It's not, yes, I mean, my marketing is all about like, I'm going to help you get more clients and make more money. And I just shared this with someone. I was like, but privately, we're talking about what drives you. Why are you
Mm.
working so hard? Are you people pleasing when somebody pushes back to you on your price? Well, are you sure that price? Like really looking at where does codependency play a role in how we run a business and our fears, doubts, and insecurities as we run it. And I think it's a beautiful blend of both because while most people believe that your business is not you, you're the one who's running it. And so like I think businesses are successful because the person feels really good about themselves. And I know for the first couple of years, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I was like, felt like I was on a treadmill, like a little hamster wheel going around and around. But to bringing it back to what you had just said is I saw a big need in the market to say, okay, you have all these coaches who are talking about sell this, sell this, sell this, sales, sales, sales. And I'm like, but what about the behind the scenes when the person's in their head being like, is this person going to sign up with us? Because if they don't, then we're not going to have enough to pay our interns. We're not going to have enough to pay myself rent. Like, our brain immediately goes there sometimes despite it wanting to. And I just felt
Right.
like it was so important to have the balance of both. So I can really respect what you said of like, it kind of made, it was like a no brainer to you when you were like, this is how I'm going to sell because like companies should pay for the ads. So as we wrap up, final two questions.
Okay.
The first is, what are you most proud of for yourself as it relates to the business?
I think I'm most proud of that I can pay for some people to have a job. And
Mm,
it's not much. They're all very part-time but it feels like really rewarding to be like, oh, like Delaney, here's like some things for this week. And she's like doing them and it's creating like not a full-time job by any means, but I don't know, it's a really cool position that I never like thought I would be in, but
yeah,
is
you
a
make me
cool.
tear up. That's
Oh,
that's
thank
like
you.
great.
I
It's
don't
true.
know. Yeah. So it's and they and like a job that they enjoy, not they were like, I mean, from what I
Yeah.
gather. Like they're like, oh yeah, like they're very, very respectful and they're like, oh, of course, Maggie, I'll do that. And like they do it right away. And like we have a good relationship, all of us. So it's like really cool that they get excited about the work that they're doing and can
Yeah.
have their own creative freedom. And it's a friend and community member and teammate that we can help on their creative and entrepreneurial journeys too.
I love that. And you're setting the stage for it's kind of like dating, right? You set the stage for the level of like what to expect. Like so when they
Mm.
do and if they go to someplace else, they're always going to remember how this was never a toxic work environment, that this was something that made them feel passionate, purposeful, that they really felt valued in doing. And I think you're like setting the stage for anyone who's come and worked with you to be like, this is how great it gets to be. So don't settle for less, right?
Oh, thank you, Katie.
The last question I have for you is what is something that you are most looking forward to in say like again, you're like making me cry, the, the next year as it relates to like a goal you're trying to set. Again, it could be either for Seacoast or it could just been the whole brand or it could be like you as it relates to Seacoast.
I think kind of like what we were talking about earlier is delegating. Like I trust the people that I work with so much, and I'm so thankful to have them on board. That feels like a really good team environment right now. So I'm excited to delegate even more to them and have their ideas, come to life, because it's not just me and my ideas. Like they have
Hmm.
incredible ideas as well. So just putting those into fruition and seeing where the business can take us and just continuing to grow and hopefully leaps and bounds, and also starting to incorporate more Maine lately into all of our worlds. Yeah, launching that and monetizing that hopefully in the year ahead. And that's kind of the goal. So I'm excited to see where that will go to and see it take off and see how it's like similar to Seacoast lately, but also different in new kind of ways. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for all of it, really.
Yeah, that's awesome because I feel like Maine in itself is its own, for lack of a better word, its own beast. Like when you go
Yeah.
to Maine, Maine is different than the rest of the seacoast, and and mostly for great reasons. So it'll be really cool to see how you're able to spin some of that into the marketing as well, and have that business be able to actually make really good money. And I have a couple of people that I'll connect you with when that time comes when you're ready, who we
Oh,
could
cool.
gladly
Thank
be a part of this
you.
community. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. For those of you who are interested in checking out Seacoast Lately, because maybe you're coming up to the Seacoast. So for those of you who don't know, it's Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Rye, New Hampshire. I mean, it's literally like, what is it, Salisbury, Mass, all the way up to what?
Kind of like Kennebunk's, Biddeford
Kennebunk.
area, tiptoeing our way around the seacoast. Yeah.
So, like from the coast of Massachusetts all the way up to the coast of Maine, that is what's considered seacoast. It's absolutely gorgeous and stunning. So, if any of you are ever coming to visit, please be sure to check out seacoastlately.com. It has every event that you would possibly want to know. And I'm going to also link the website there as well and her Instagram. So, be sure to follow and you'll get some great recommendations of places to visit, food to eat, etc. And when you do give her a follow, be sure to send her a DM and say that you've heard her on the podcast. All right.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Maggie, and health and happiness, everyone.